again, I'm one of your panelists, where I'm also going to be working with Regina Clay and with Jason Booms, and we're going to give our perspectives on the presentations you've just heard.
Hello, how are you? When Dana asked us to raise our hands about who were baby boomers, I raised my hand. And I know you all are like, she can't possibly be a baby boomer. But yes, I am. I was born in 1963. But I also consider myself somewhat a Generation X, because I also have younger children. So my children are 9 and 6. Right now, currently, as I was coming to this panel, I thought, wow, what am I gonna speak about? I'm not even there. And as it would happen, I have a parent who 4 weeks ago was completely independent, drove to work every day, still working at 79 years old, and suffered prostate cancer but came through it, went to the athletic club every day, and currently my father is at Encore at Turf Valley going through rehab because he cannot walk and he has some other complications. I never really imagined that I would be in that place. I never thought that my dad would get older. Even though I knew they were aging, I never thought that he would be not independent. And as we have gone through this process, it has helped me to think about myself and me getting older, and the fact that in 2030 I will be close to 65, and my children and where they will be and what they will be facing if something were to happen to me and I wasn't able to take care of myself. One of the things that I thought about in terms of my father went to the hospital, he went to a rehab, he was released to home because they were going to give him rehab services at home. They released him to a 77-year-old woman, my mother, who is frail, who has sciatica herself. They have no living quarters on the first floor. This is typical Howard County. We've lived in Howard County for over 40 years. No living quarters on the first floor. And I thought to myself, I said, Mom, how in the world are you going to manage this? Well, it didn't manage so well. And so my father had to go back to the hospital and now is at rehab. Thanking God for insurance and for double insurance, because my father is over 65, has Medicare, and has a secondary insurance because he's still working. He's able to be at Encore for a period of time and get the care that he needs in order to get back and feel like himself again. This has been a process because my father was very independent, and to have to be dependent on family members. As children, having to step in, I need to hear the doctors and what they're saying. My father went to doctors by himself. So I had to get the whole history from the beginning, discover what was going on. All these things are teaching me how I can better prepare myself for my children and for my children's children for the future. So I think that this is a wonderful thing because there's resources that I discovered that I didn't know. I was really, and I've lived in Howard County for 40 years, I work for the county government, I didn't really even know about Encore. I didn't even really know about Encore, and My mother went there and discovered it, was very, very pleased with it, and my father's very happy there. So I think about my next living, the place where I'll live, and thinking about the fact that I need to make it secure for myself if something were to happen to me. So I need some living quarters that I can access easily by, kind of any means necessary. It just makes you think about all of those things where I wasn't even there 4 weeks ago, as a matter of fact. I really wasn't quite there 4 weeks ago, but this experience has really helped me to think about that. So that's where I want to start. So.
Well, thank you. As befitting Generation X, I'll keep my remarks relatively brief. I'm a pollster by trade, but I will not bore you with statistical details, and I'll focus on some broader trends dealing with that age cohort between the ages of roughly 30 and roughly 50. One of the things that I noticed very early on in my career when I was doing more political polling, that was the fact that there was a bit of a demographic squeeze that was taking place. That at a certain point in time, Generation X would find itself in the somewhat unwanted position, or difficult position, I should say, of having to play a larger role in caregiving for our elderly parents and grandparents, as well as being in a position of putting our children through school, and simultaneously not quite having the numbers of the generation which came before us or after us. So given that challenge that has occurred, that in some ways has provided an opportunity for greater alignment between Generation X and the baby boomers, because we both now find ourselves wanting what I would call essentially communities of convenience. We want to be able to, as many baby boomers do as well, want to live close to our families, or at least most of our families. And from that, we want to be able to live in vibrant communities. We want to be able to be near, not necessarily walkable, but near major regional shopping centers. We want to have the staples relatively nearby. We want entertainment options, dining options, a wide variety of things that are located very close to us, so we can spend more time with those important to us, our families and our friends. With that in mind, one of the things that I think that we need to bear in mind, and as policymakers and other people in our community consider these findings, we want to pay close attention to, in some ways not overcorrecting so much, bearing in mind that we do face a population that is getting older. We also want to think about what I would refer to as a multi-generational approach. For example, in Columbia, of course, we're known for our tot lots. I think those are excellent opportunities and places for multi-generational meeting areas where folks can play bocce ball, or there can be tables put aside for playing checkers or chess. So you can have multiple generations of the same family having fun at the same time. And that also lends itself well towards other kinds of activities as well. Perhaps things that all the family can enjoy, such as perhaps bringing a minor league baseball team to Howard County might be something in the future where families can come together and, within not too far away from the town center, having a sizable part of the population that could get there quite easily. So again, I guess my fundamental takeaway from all this is to very much have in mind a multi-generational perspective as we're thinking about the data that we're seeing today, and hopefully planning will proceed apace from that.
All right. Oh, is mine the one that isn't working? Yes. Of course. There we go. Well, as the millennial on the panel, I guess I should have tied in, made form, follow, function, and tweeted this whole thing, or posted it in Instagram. So you're very welcome for my not doing that.
My take on this is very similar to Jason's. I find in conversation, and this might just be because I often am the youngest person in a room, and that is slowly changing, and that's really abrupt and jarring to me. That the conversation dominates around the aging population, and that makes sense as you look at the trends that we're seeing and you look at the population shift in terms of percentages. But it means we're shutting out the long-term future for bringing in new people. We often talk as if we're planning for a walled city, where the only young people are your grandchildren who will stay here and take care of you further down the line. And it means that we really fight against any sort of transformation into a more urban side of suburban. We really push against a lot of walkable business options and walkable communities, and we push against the idea of any more apartments ever. It's also, we see a lot of senior housing being built, and sometimes in places that don't seem logical, right next to schools, where you might think a population that has children who will go to those schools kind of makes sense. So mostly what I've seen is we're having these conversations and talking about what we need, but we're talking about what we need right now. We're not talking about in the long term. So it dominates the conversation, but not in a way that's effective for long-term planning and not in a way that's effective for the rest of the population. And that's why I'm really happy that we're having this kind of conversation where we're really looking at the long-term approach. We're projecting out what our populations are going to be. Because for the most part, I do want the walkable, everything walkable. I do want lots of entertainment options and lots of things. I would love a minor league baseball team. But a lot of those have been said like not to fit in the Howard County aesthetic. And I think it traps us and prevents us from moving when we focus so much on right now and what we need to do right now that we're going to stagnate unless we hold more conversations like this and keep moving forward.
Are there any questions for anybody on the phone? We covered it comprehensively. Lovely. Oh, yeah, come back.
One question. You came up earlier about migration. In 1998, I was trained as a healthcare professional that 25% of the population in Howard County was turning over at that time in terms of people moving out, and it was like 1 out of 4 households was moving each year. And I'm wondering what that current level is after the housing bubble and the crash.
Here.
Actually, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. But it is certainly something that we could research and try to find the answers to, and then if we can get some of that information, pass it along.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next panel.